Well, welcome everyone. It's very nice to spend this time with you today. And it's middle of the day, middle of the week. I'm sure there's plenty going on, either externally or internally. So I thought we'd start with some meditation, just a chance to ground ourselves and take a breather. So if you would, please find the most comfortable position you can in this moment, regardless of the posture. Just having your spine relatively straight and thinking about this as an opportunity to take a little vacation right here, meditation vacation. You might take a few deep breaths right here at the beginning and let as much tension or stress or tightness fall away as possible, especially when you're exhaling. The inhalation can be energizing, and the exhalation can be relaxing. So when we're tired, maybe even sleepy, we can put more attention on the in-breath. And when we're busy, excited, stressed, tired at a different level, we can put more emphasis on the out-breath, relax and let go. It's very good to come to meditation without any expectations or goals. Oftentimes, we might find ourselves wanting to get something, get samadhi, jhana, just some peace of mind. And that wanting to get something gets in the way of really feeling relaxed and free and allowing the natural process of the mind becoming still to unfold. So if you're comfortable with it, then continue to put your attention on your breathing. And if that isn't comfortable for you, then choosing whatever meditation object really feels soothing, comfortable, pleasant, something your mind likes to focus on. I'm using the word focus in a light way, not some bearing down concentration, but just where your attention lands. That meditation object should be something that you enjoy noticing, want to stay present with. So if that's the breath, then we can think of the breath as our friend, kind of a constant companion. It's there to support our life, bring us energy, and oxygen, life force. So observing our object of meditation and noticing whatever else might be happening, our feelings. What are the physical feelings that you're experiencing right now in the present moment? What are the mental feelings, emotion? Maybe feeling that isn't coming from some physical input, but something that's more mental or spiritual. Oftentimes, when we relax, then a spiritual pleasure or joy starts to arise. We can feel it, we can feel how it feels in the body, but it isn't coming from physical stimulation. It's coming from relaxing and stilling the mind. Well, one of the wonderful attributes of meditation is that whether it's pleasant and still, easy, or whether the mind is busy and all over the place or challenging, the meditation is still valuable, and the value of it comes from observing whatever it is that's happening, allowing it, allowing ourselves to be with it, whatever it is in this moment, as a witness to our experience. If you're observing your breathing, then the more you stay with it, the more you're likely to feel contented, happy, relaxed feelings, and some kind of spiritual happiness. Regardless of the meditation object, this can be true. Staying present with it is really the key to opening the way for the unfolding of the meditation. And whether there's some sense of joy or pleasure, pleasant feeling is arising naturally or not, we can bring more to that. And some feelings of kindness, compassion, gratitude. So again, welcome everyone to this lovely gathering, break in the day, break in the week. It's always a joy to be able to come together with other practitioners and share the Dhamma or the Dharma, regardless of language. And I was thinking about fear and overcoming fear, developing a kind of fearlessness. Probably because lately people have been talking to me about their fears. Understandable. Life has so much uncertainty. Personally, we all go through major changes, some of them unbidden and surprising, and others we know are inevitable, but they still may come in a way that we're not feeling prepared. And then, of course, there are the many, many things that are completely out of our control that can bring up significant fear. And the Buddha talked about fear and how to work with it and how to reduce it, even eliminate it from our life. And he talked about fear in relation to the qualities that we're developing, because he said in a few different places in the suttas that when we cultivate virtue, for example, then we don't have to ever fear getting a bad reputation. And you might think, well, everyone gets criticized and everyone makes mistakes. But the Buddha seemed to have a very, he took the position that as we are developing our character and developing in our practice, so developing wisdom, getting clearer and clearer about what's wholesome, what's not wholesome, developing our energy and our commitment to choose what's wholesome and to avoid doing what's unwholesome, that we start to live a truly blameless life. And even if we get blamed, because everybody did, even the Buddha, there's no grounds for it. And the other part that fits in is that the Buddha really demonstrated ways of spiritual recovery when we make mistakes or we have patterns that have been unhealthy or unproductive or harmful, and how to overcome those and how to change. And so I really am convinced at this point that there is a path of spiritual recovery no matter what we've done, no matter what has happened in the past. And it's so hopeful. And for the monastics, you really see it in the monastic code, in the Vinaya, the ways that you work with mistakes you've made to overcome them, to resolve them, and come out the other side of it with more wisdom. So this has a lot of power in reducing our fears. And the Buddha said that, when we develop like this, there comes a point when we don't have to be afraid of being in any group of people. Like, so many times we could be afraid of speaking in front of others, or just feel uncomfortable being in a certain group. But he says when our moral virtue is strong and our wisdom, so we understand understand people and understand ourselves better, then we have less to fear. And even if fear arises as a habit, you might say kind of we're conditioned to have fear. Of course, there's natural fears when we perceive something life-threatening or dangerous. That's understandable. It's a wonderful alarm mechanism. But with the wisdom, we can put it into perspective, take action that's appropriate, and not be, you might say, bought into the fear or controlled by fear, but seeing it for what it is and knowing that it's a temporary uh, um, experience. But sometimes we're afraid of things that I mentioned before that are completely out of our control and uncertain. Like a lot of times we're afraid or worried about things that never happen, probably most of the time when we're worried. And the way of working with that really comes back to the entirety of the path. The development of our mindfulness, our ability to be present in the moment. Again, the development of our keeping precepts, really being able to take the time and let the mind become calm and still and kind of build up that samadhi effect that it has on rewiring our brains, and to really see that through this cultivation we begin to understand the patterns that we have, particularly the pattern, the conditioned core of seeing ourselves as individual, separate beings. So the cultivation culminates with a letting go of this sense of self. And even though the same conditioned patterns and responses will arise, they don't have that kind of power over us anymore to kind of throw us into cycles of whatever responses and consequences that brings automatically. Instead, we can make choices about it and change. So it's a interesting way in which so many things are tied or connected in the path that support each other. So our development of virtue then supports our um, sense of self-respect, that we recognize that we are good, that we do a lot of good, we have good intentions, we're making good effort. And then the more we can feel more confident in ourselves, and these negative influences have less influence on us. And then the more we can look more directly at the operation of this sense of self and see it for what it is, a collection of conditions that come and go, arise and cease. Putting our confidence and our trust in the Dharma instead of this constantly changing world. So there's a discourse that I really like in the Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses. It's in the Book of Nines, and it's called Powers. usually. And it's, the Buddha said there are these 4 powers you can develop. And when you develop these 4 powers, you never have to have these 5 fears ever again. And the fears, the list starts with the fear of losing our livelihood. And then getting a bad reputation, or being afraid or timid in an assembly of people, or the fear of death, or the fear of what happens after death. And the 4 powers that we develop that eliminate those fears are the development of wisdom, in this case defined as knowing the difference, knowing what is wholesome and what is not wholesome. The power of energy to do what's wholesome and avoid what's unwholesome. The power of blamelessness, so really living our lives according to precepts that make any kind of blame unfounded or just a mistake for us to correct. And finally, the 4th one, which I really love and found unique in the Buddhist teachings, in these many lists that we look at, is the power of sustaining favorable relationships. So the power of making friends, having companions on the path, connections with our teachers, and all of those kind of relationships that are beneficial for our life. And he said there are specific things that we can consider doing to sustain those relationships. Like if someone in your life would benefit from a gift, give them a gift. If they would benefit from encouraging words, encourage them. If they benefit from some kind of service we can do for them, do it, help them. If they would benefit from being treated impartially, treat them impartially. So this is a collection of suggestions from the Buddha that can really help us increase generosity and connection. And when I take these 4, the wisdom, the energy, the blamelessness, and this network of good friends, and I look at those 5 fears, I can start to see why those dissolve. If we lose our livelihood, we've got people who will help, people to depend on, a confidence in ourselves. If someone blames us, we don't have to panic. Just work it out. Figure out if there's any truth to it, and if there is, make a change, and if there's not, it'll fall away. Can walk into any group feeling humble and confident. Well, and of course, the Buddha's experience of seeing what happens when we die is that the good in our life continues on. Whatever mistakes or bad things we've done in our life is diluted by the good. So all of this practice comes to a point where we can be confident moving on from this particular body and existence into what's positive, supportive beyond this life. So I would encourage your reflection on the way fear manifests in your mind and in your experience, and how to work with it, be present with it, dissect it, investigate it, not believe it. So at this point, I'm really curious about what you're thinking. And if you have any questions.
I'll just pop in real quick. There was a question in the chat, just more logistical, if you could repeat the name of the sutta. And before that, I'll just also briefly say, yeah, anyone is welcome to unmute and ask a question. And if you prefer not to put your voice in the room, feel free to chat to everyone or to either me or Ayya Santussika, and we can answer your question.
So the sutta is, well, Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, I know he calls it powers, but it's in the Book of Nines in the Numerical Discourses, or the Anguttara Nikaya, and it's number 5. So AN 9-5. It's a short sutta that it's kind of a sleeper. I happened to be teaching it once a number of years ago, and it felt like the value of it really started to bloom. Any questions, comments?
Oh, I'll make a comment. Hi everyone. Um, I'm so grateful. I just want to share gratitude and say that this is very helpful to hear personally, but also in my work as a mental health practitioner, where I, hear about fear a lot, and this is a lot of the process. But this way of outlining and organizing it, and just it's so helpful. So grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Lori?
Hi, thank you. And thank you for speaking with us today. This has been so helpful, especially in these times. Um, and I liked the part about social relationships being important. And being introduced to Buddhism, I was attracted to the silent, quiet perception I had of it just being a self thing, not an other thing. Um, and through the practice, I have close into my relationships with my friends and family, and value all humans so much more. Um, but I love that part of the practice, and so thank you for today.
Yeah, thank you, Lori. Yeah, so many times I see how much more difficult it can be to go through life's challenges without community. And even the fact that we don't nowadays usually have big families, like when my mother was dying, I was with her by myself a lot. I have one brother who lived a long way away, who didn't come, and you're just by yourself. It's not the days when there were 8 or 9 siblings and you all live near each other and everybody takes a turn, and there are so many situations like that now. I was just supporting someone whose husband was dying, and she was taking care of him, and they're both in their 80s, and we're late 70s, something like that. And it's like, it's very hard. Um, and every bit of community support, friends, neighbors, is so beneficial. So creating community around us, even community across the planet now, is still helpful. We can still support each other. And I loved what you said, Lori, about the valuing of human beings everywhere. That comes, it seems quite naturally from the practice, as we are able to dissolve more and more of our fears about ourselves and our own survival or capacity uh, to take care of ourselves, and we can have more capacity to really think of others as well, I think. And it's lovely. Thank you. Yes, Jennifer.
Is it okay if I
Yeah,
feel fear really strongly or something to cry? I mean, is
of
that
course. Of course it's okay to cry.
sometimes I
Yes.
feel like I shouldn't. I should be stronger or yeah, more equanimous or something and not feel like I need to cry sometimes, but sometimes I do.
Yeah, no, it's completely okay. It's like, first and foremost, we have to turn towards what we're feeling.
Mhm,
And whatever emotional response comes out of that, that's harmless, of course, to have tears coming or whatever is not a problem at all. But then what we want to do is observe it. Just really have that witnessing capacity so that we can see and have a lot of compassion for ourselves. Of course we feel sad, or of course we feel frightened. We're
mhm,
living as quite vulnerable entities, beings in this huge world that's got so much uncertainty and danger in it. No wonder we have these feelings. And that's okay. And they're just feelings. Um, and the Buddha talked about this, and we have it in the suttas where he comes upon some of the monks, including Venerable Ananda, talking about the miracles that happened when the Buddha was born. And the Buddha says to them, well, there's another miracle or amazing thing about the Tathagata, which is the way he referred to himself. I think that was a not self kind of maneuver. The Tathagata knows that a perception is just a perception, and a thought is just a thought, and a feeling is just a feeling. And when we can remember that, and yeah, the tears flow, but when we come into that position of observing that part that's observing isn't sad or afraid
mhm,
or whatever. It's able to be there and hold it all.
mhm. Okay,
So yeah,
thank you.
don't ever feel bad about what you feel.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. You're certainly not alone in that feeling. I should be more. I should be different. I shouldn't feel the way I feel. I shouldn't, shouldn't. And it's a kind of a barrier. The first noble truth is to turn towards our dukkha, turn towards what we experience. That's the way through it.
I'll hop in here and just add my appreciation for these lists. One thing I'm reflecting on is there's these 5 fears that a lot of us can relate to, and oftentimes the sort of impulse or response to that is to do something about that fear specifically, you know, and I love the four powers and the way it's, yeah, just like a more expansive cultivating of certain qualities that sort of naturally takes care of those fears rather than like trying to fix, you know, "Oh, I'm scared of a bad reputation, so I have to do something about that, you know, yeah, I just appreciate how spacious and sort of, even when you were speaking, I felt like, yeah, just like a more ease and more, a letting go. And so, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. It's kind of organic. You know, if you really, we pick up whatever piece of the Buddha's teaching or path and we apply ourselves to it, and it's kind of organic that little by little the whole thing comes into our life, and we have this beautiful opportunity to observe and witness and experience what unfolds from that for us. And sometimes it can seem like the changes are very small, but if we start to look back over the period of time that we've been deepening our practice, we can see some pretty significant changes for the better. So, what have your fears been about lately? Anybody want to share?
The planet.
The planet. The planet in terms of the climate change, and
Yes.
or in terms of war, in terms of, yeah. Yeah, and we can do certain things to try to move things in the right direction, of course, and that's can be very helpful on the level of how our heart is handling it all, and it can be very helpful in terms of a nudging the world in the right direction. But there's so much of it that's out of our control. I mean, it is out of our control. And when you really think about it, what's within our control, it's what we do and what we say, at least as far as we develop our own self-control, our ability to be skillful. And even what we think, we can choose how we think. And that's part of the development on the path, being able to have agency over those three kinds of action. And it's wonderful to see, like with this sutta I was talking about, that has such a powerful effect. Because, you know, even though the sutta didn't talk about it, there's an effect on the other people that are around us when we develop in these ways. And that ripples out, you know, to be a good example, an encouraging example for the people that we meet in our life. So important. And of course, it's up to them if they pick up on it. But you never know when something you've said or done shows up in someone's memory to give them a good example to follow. So it's good to remember that what we have agency over, we can use for the benefit of everyone and for ourselves.
Thank you. That sounds also like maybe like your topic for the Big Bear retreat that you're leading soon. Or do you want to say anything more about that, your retreat?
Yeah, the retreat is going to be using the four foundations of mindfulness as a basis to talk about our relationship with ourselves, with others, and with the world. And Ayya Santussika And I will be sharing those things and, really looking forward to meeting everyone who's coming to the retreat. And I think the way I see retreats like this is practicing together and reflecting together, and together something new emerges.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Fear of not doing enough is huge. Working through it, aiming to honor small ways to help. Yeah. Yeah, I look at people like Pope Francis just passed away. What an amazing servant to humanity he was. And there are people who feel like he didn't do enough, right? So there's no end to that. You can always think, am I doing enough? Or I'm not doing enough. There's just no end to it. And one thing that I learned from my teacher Ajahn Pasano a long time ago is when you can see that there's something like that in this world, that there's no end to it, just recognize that there's no point in getting caught up in that kind of thinking. So don't think about, am I doing enough? If we develop in the path and the practice, then there's less of our sense of self. We're doing fewer things for selfish motives. We're doing more things just because it flows through us, through the Dhamma flows through us. And when we do that, our actions have benefit, and regardless, when we do things that are helpful, there's benefit for others, for ourselves, for others, for the world. And to just stay with that. Remember that. Remember the good things that you do. And when those questions that you can't answer, like, am I doing enough? Or they're endless, just set that aside. Like, there's no need to go there. There's no answer to that. And there's also the fear of losing my livelihood. There's a lot of reason to have fears these days around this. And again, remembering the good that you've done, the people you've touched. Karma is a real thing. Good things come back to us. And when we put our emphasis in the way that we think on the good that we've done, instead of the mistakes that we've made, we move that goodness further into the future. If we think all the time about the things we've done wrong and the mistakes we've made, we move that more into the future. We don't want that. You've already looked at it. You already have learned from it. Let it go. Cut it off. Move the goodness forward in yourself and in the world. And you can do it. And then if you lose your livelihood here, maybe a better thing happens just around the corner. Sometimes the things we think are the hardest things that happen in our life, they actually make it possible for much better things to come forward. Even if it's surrounded around how we meet the challenge and how our character develops as a result. And thanks for bringing that up. I think that I'm gonna bring my part of this to a close and hand this back to Andy. And I'm gonna take my leave at this point, and I just really appreciate everyone who's attended, leader listens, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Ayya. And we look forward to seeing you at the end of June.